This is Chris Kell with your introduction to core training and some of the principles that we utilize to form our kind of methodology here at Peak Fitness. Now, one of the questions that I get all the time from clients is, what is the difference between core strength and core stability? We have this idea of sit-ups, crunches, leg lifts, different things that involve movement of the torso when we're talking about core training. And that is what we think of with core strength. Really easily defined, core strength is movement of the core. So that would be something like a crunch or like a sit-up where I'm moving the torso. Okay, that would be considered strengthening exercises because what we're doing is we're moving the torso, like we're generating movement, and that is the most important concept to think about. Core strength equals movement. So anything that involves movement of the rectus abdominis, or what we call the abs, that is core strength, and that is something that you're going to see in most gyms and everything else. The question is whether or not that is most beneficial in daily life. Research has shown that for the majority of the time, the function of our abs is to act kind of like a weight belt around the spine, in that they prevent excessive movement of the torso. So if you want to think about things like when you bend over to pick something up or you rotate excessively, because the spine has a limited range of motion in rotation, the lumbar spine, and we're flexing over all day, if we're using our spine to do that, that's really going to be very stressful and add up to kind of cumulative fatigue and injury. What the abs help us to do, though, if we tighten our abs, and bend over to pick something up, is they're tightening around the spine to form what is called an abdominal brace that helps to compress everything, generate some stability, and really that kind of isometric strength, meaning like they're preventing movement as opposed to creating it, is what we want to emphasize with most people, simply because it's more functional in daily life and that it's supporting them. All right, so some examples of this kind of core stability concept are movements which kind of teach the torso, or teach the abs to resist movement. So think about something like a frontal plank. Okay, what am I doing here? I'm preventing arching of the back. All right, I want to hold in this position. All right, so I'm building endurance in the abs as opposed to moving them through any range of motion like a crunch. All right, the same goes for something like a side plank. I'm stabilizing as opposed to moving around, and that is the basic concept of core stability. It's maintaining kind of a center of mass as opposed to generating movement. Now, as the client becomes better with these static holds, the second level of progression would be to start to move the extremities against the stable core. When we're talking about athletics, or we're talking about running or moving around, one thing that we'll see a lot when somebody's running, for example, is like a twisting of the torso. Whereas if they were tightening their abs, or if they had good core stability, you're just going to see movement of the limbs while kind of the waist remains steady and stable. We can train this through things that involve maintaining a stable core while moving the extremities. So something like a plank to push-up, for example, or a plank with a leg raise. The extremities are moving, but if the torso stays in one place, then we're kind of generating the function of the core. So I'm resisting the urge to rotate excessively as I'm moving here. Therefore, I'm maintaining core stability, and I'm training it actively against the limbs, the movement of the limbs. So when we're talking about progression of core stability exercises, think static holds followed by movement of the limbs. We can also transfer this concept to standing exercises. So something like, for example, a medicine ball figure eight, all right, where I'm performing a figure eight with the ball, or I'm chopping with the ball. Okay, I'm chopping, I'm moving my limbs, but I'm not twisting the torso to do that. Even when I do twist the torso, if we move from the hips as opposed to just twisting from the lumbar spine, that's good because that's driving motion here, maintaining stability here, and transferring motion from the lower to the upper body without movement of the core. That is a huge concept when we're thinking about training the core, and really when we're talking about definition as well. Research has shown that these areas of the core generate more force, actually resisting these rotational movements and different patterns. We're on the floor in plank progressions or different things like that, as opposed to doing traditional sit-ups and crunches. So when you're looking at your client, when you're training your client, ask yourself, Is this somebody that is moving around a lot? Is this somebody that sits in a desk all day? you know, your training should be specific to their need. So, you know, if it's somebody that's flexed forward all day, we want to do things to resist that, all right? So we want to train them with planks, side planks, things that maintain that core stability as they lean forward so we don't arch forward or you know, slouch forward like that. So those are some of the, that's really the most important, those are the most important principles to think about when training the core, and really forms the basis of all exercises that we believe in here at Peak Fitness.